Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Short Ball Podcast for another week of Pathways action. Got a lot to cover. It is finals time in Malmaninga Cup, in SG Ball. Harold Matthews are getting right down to crunch time for all those competitions. And then obviously New South Wales Cup, Queensland Cup, all these things are really getting into gear now. We've got Origin under-19, City 18s, all these sorts of things just around the corner as well. So make sure you stay in tune. There's a lot coming up. Schoolboy footy is about to start soon as well. But today we'll be mostly focusing in on the junior reps finals. And then there's a couple of exciting debuts coming up as well in the NRL. I've just got a couple other NRL talking points as well on top of that. But we'll start off as usual with our performances of the week. And we start off with the Pathways player of the round. And that was Alex Conti this week. He had two try assists, 143 run meters, 386 kicking meters against the Parramatta Eels on Sunday night. I was watching this game live, and geez, the battle between him and Lorenzo Talatena was awesome all game. Conti, he set up Logan Spinks for a couple of tries. He put in a couple of kicks that found grass. One of those bounced back and resulted in a try for Mila Setu, who was really awesome in that game as well. But yeah, just generally, Alex Conti, an awesome game from him. His running game was on. He made Parramatta look silly on a couple of occasions there, and he is named in jersey 23 for the Bulldogs this weekend, and that's no doubt off the back of what was a sensational performance in reserve grade from him. Junior reps finals, the performances from the weekend that I wanted to really highlight. Cooper Townsend, I thought he was one of the night's best. Statistically, it's popped up 35 tackles, 115 metres, and he had a try as well throughout the game. I thought he was awesome. His jersey just kept popping up at different points throughout the course of that game. Noticed him a lot on both sides of the ball, and obviously he scored a try as well, which helps. But yeah, defensively he came up with a few huge stops, and so did Diesel Hagen next to him. Diesel Hagen and Toby Winter I thought had really good games as well, but Diesel Hagen was a guy I wanted to highlight. I thought he was awesome in this game, returning from a stint in New South Wales Cup a couple of weeks back as well. And yeah, he's gone to another level over the last couple of weeks, Diesel Hagen, and I thought he had another really awesome game. He did end up, he was in a moon boot and on crutches at the end of the game though, so I think he might be missing this weekend's game, but we'll wait and see on that. Over to the South versus Eels SG Ball game. I thought the two performances I wanted to highlight here, the statistical freak and a guy who came up with a lot of highlight plays in this one was Dane Jennings. He had two line breaks, 188 metres and a try. He was good in this game as well out in that centre position. Just looked dangerous whenever he carried the ball. And Taj Alvarez, I thought he, live watching the game, I thought he was a real difference maker in this side. And he looked like he was carving Parramatta up pretty much every single time he touched the ball. And he scored an awesome try off the kickoff as well at one point. Taj Alvarez, he was very good for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Over to Harold Matthews, the two in the Roosters-Panthers game that I wanted to highlight. Charlie Webb, I thought he was their best on ground. Threw a mad cutout ball for their first try. He scored a freakish solo try as well by himself. Had a couple of good kicks. His defensive game was good. So he was definitely worth highlighting, Charlie Webb. And Marcus Sando, he just continues to do the thing through the middle. 153 metres and 25 tackles in this game. He's just super busy. He puts on big shots. His running game's been awesome. He's gone to another level in the final series. He's averaging about 140 metres a game in the finals. He's averaging 93 metres throughout the course of the regular season. So a clear and obvious jump up in production, and visually as well. It's just been super impressive. And he's getting these big run meters off very little runs. Like, he's making a lot of post-contact meters. He's bumping off tackles. He's just really pushing this side forward. I think last week was 11 runs for 137. This week was 13 or 14 runs for 153. He's been awesome. And it's the defensive side of the ball is where these Roosters forwards are really impressing me. I'll talk about them a little bit later, but he's certainly been the leader of that pack. In the Knights Eels game, I wanted to highlight a player from each side rather than just the winning side. Most of these first couple of games were pretty dominant from the winners, but I thought in this game I wanted to highlight Malachi Faave-Eli. He didn't have the top stats coming up on New South Wales Rugby League, but he came up with a couple of crucial try savers. In attack, he was everywhere. He looks like a super dangerous player. He's an age up. His centre pairing, Kobe Magorji, he was really awesome in that game as well. Both of those centres an age up and killed it. Yeah, and the back rower, Cade McKay, he was awesome as well. But we'll talk about those guys a little bit later. And the other guy that I wanted to highlight from that game was Jake Capavilla. I thought he had his best game for the Parramatta Eels this year in the big moment. I sort of mentioned him the last couple of weeks as he was really looking like he was improving and playing really good footy towards the back end of the year. He's an age up, so he's another guy that's going to return next year. And Harold Matthews, and in this game he had 144 metres, a line breaker, try assist. He just was really, really good both sides of the ball. Jake Capavilla, very, very, very much impressed me. And over the last the second half of the year, he's been really good for Parramatta. So one to follow there, and Harold Matthews next year. All right, let's get into it. We'll start off with a brief preview of the Mal Meninga Cup finals. And obviously, I don't follow Mal Meninga Cup nearly as closely as what I do with SG Ball and Harold Matthews. I follow those comps, watch every single game, every single week, and whereas Mount Meninga, I sort of just watch the games that I can. But I'll try and highlight a few players that are up there to watch in these final series, and obviously I will be covering these finals. Particularly when SG Ball and Harold Matthews finishes, I'll turn my focus to covering them in full. But we'll start off with the Blackhawks and the Burleigh Bears. So, obviously, Broncos feed a club in the Burleigh Bears, even though they're on the Gold Coast. And the Townsville Blackhawks, who are the Cowboys feeder club, they've got a couple of NRLQ Cowboy stars coming back into this one. Guys like Taj Lateo, Taylor Toa, and Archie Mesrich. He played NRLQ over the last couple of weeks as well. He was really awesome in week 2. He was one of the best players on the field that day, and he put up huge numbers as well from a run meters and line breaks sort of perspective. But yeah, Talon Toa, he's going to be, the guy to watch in this game. He's been carving up NRLQ every single game that he's played, and big body, runs a tough line. He had a really good combination with Javon Andrews going over the last couple of years. They were both at the Titans, and then, Toa's obviously moved up to the Cowboys. Javon's moved down to the Tigers, and but yeah, it hasn't slowed either of them down quite clearly. Javon's been killing it in New South Wales Cup, and Talon Toa, he's been killing it in NRLQ, and I have no doubt that he'll probably make a step up to Queensland Cup at some point in the near future as well. But for the moment, he's stepping back down a level. You see these guys that go up to Jersey Flegg or go up to New South Wales Cup, and they come back to their own age group, and it's like they're a different player. So I'm very keen to see how Talon Toa goes here in this final, and running off Taj Lateo, they're starting to form a pretty good combination. Toa and Zach Hertigan were mostly combining in the NRLQ week 1, and then Xavier Hellier was sort of down there. But, Lateo, Tyson Walker as well, they can play those halves, Taj Lateo and Tyson Walker. It's a very good halves combination there, and yeah, they've got the cattle certainly around them to make it work. I think the Bears, they've got a pretty strong forward pack. Tamasi Vaitai, I think, is off to the Rabbitohs next year. Other 13, they got Ronan Byford there. I'll just get up their team list here so I'm not just talking utter nonsense. But yeah, their forward pack is super impressive when you watch them. Tavake Taolo, some of these guys have been doing really good things. Lennox Waiapu off the bench as well. He's been really good. He's caught my eye. Cooper Murphy through the middle. He was Kebra captain last year when they won schoolboys, and he's a captain of this side as well. Quality player, and he comes up with clutch plays a lot of the time. In Kebra's finals run, he came up with a few really big moments on their way to the national final, so he's certainly a guy to watch out for there. And Israel Lataki out wide, he was another one, a part of that Kebra side in jersey number 4 out in the centres. He's a high upside centre, very tall, aerial threat, moves quite well, so he's one that I'm keen to see how he goes in this finals game as well. The other game is a game I haven't followed these two sides as much. Obviously, I've seen a little bit of the Blackhawks and the Bears. I always sort of follow the Bears closely. I did play a season up there for the Burleigh Bears, but the Mackay Cutters and Tweed Seagulls is the next game, and haven't followed these two sides as much, particularly more so the Cutters. I cannot remember a game that I've watched of them this season. But for the Seagulls, I wanted to highlight a couple of their forwards. Jai Bilish at number 9. I think he's a very, very talented guy. I think he was unlucky not to be an Australian schoolboy last year. He's a captain of this side. I think I'm expecting pretty huge things from him. Josiah Farr also, he's a guy that I've followed over the last couple of years as well. I think he's shown a lot whenever I've watched him, especially for the Tweed Seagulls, in Cyril Connell and Mount Meninga Cup. He was playing last year as well. I think he played at Palm Beach Currumbin for schoolboy footy as well. As with Kalani Patu, he's shown a little bit as well. And then the 12 and the 13, I can't say I've seen a lot of Jet Flatley, but he was a country representative, country 18s last year. I think he might have played New South Wales 17s actually. But he is a representative level player. Jet Flatley, he has made, rep sides down here in New South Wales. And Fletcher O'Doherty at lock, he was a CCC captain last year in schoolboys. He's been at the Knights. He now moves up to Tweed Seagulls. I haven't followed his progress that much this year, but another talented player there. But yeah, that should be... that's going to be one that I'll probably keep a closer eye on and do in more of a review sense because I haven't seen too much of these players. We'll move on to SG Ball. The first game on the weekend is Seagulls versus Knights. That's 1:30 at Henson Park. Don't get me started on the fact that we've got games at different locations and there's only one game at Henson Park and then 3 on at Leichhardt at the same time. It is annoying as. But I think this game is going... It's the one game this weekend that I can't confidently pick. Some of these Harold Matthews games, I've spoken about how tight Harold Matthews and how open of a competition it is, but I can go into these games and I think I know what's going to happen, or I feel like I can see what's going to happen. Two very clearly different styles of footy, but this Seagulls and Knights matchup, I just cannot get a read on it. The Knights, their forward pack's been awesome, but then I looked at the way Manly played against South Sydney Rabbitohs, and if they replicate that, they should be able to win. But then, was that game a one-off? I don't know. But then you look at the star power on both sides. It's Toby Winter versus, Honor Tony Large and Ashton Large. And then will Diesel Hagen play? Don't think so because he got injured. But there is just so much going on. Chase Butler in Jersey 7 for the Newcastle Knights, been one of the premier players in this competition. I just cannot get a true read on it. I just think the way that the Newcastle Knights forward pack has been playing in this back half of the year, and I gave him a good rap a couple of weeks ago, and I'm probably going to give him a rap again. Cooper Townsend, I mentioned him through 13. He's been awesome since grabbing that jersey. Caleb McRae, damaging back rower, damaging middle. Doesn't matter where you play him. He's a threat whenever he gets the ball. He's been chewing up big meters, especially towards the back end of the year while he was playing prop. He was putting up huge meters week on week. Beau Hill, he had one of his best games in finals week 1. He was awesome there. It's a very... I feel confident, and because the Knights, the last couple of weeks, there's been the sample size there of they're playing really good footy. Manly have sort of had on and off weeks, and they got pumped by the Rabbitohs in week 6 or week 5 or whatever it was, but then they came out and played nearly the perfect game and beat the Rabbitohs comfortably. The score said 36-30 in the end, but they were up big. Their forward pack, Matthew Payne, Freddie Benson Sparks started off awesome. Hussein Said, he had an awesome stint off the bench as well in that game. The back row was Siffer Oldfield's back. Bo McKee, he's playing good footy, particularly on the attacking side of the ball. He's running some very good lines, and him and Honor Tony Large have a really good combination going. Very, very tricky game to look at and analyse. It is a good matchup, though. Any result wouldn't overly shock me. The Knights just did a similar thing last year in Harold Matthews, where they finished off the season really strong, and then they just went all the way through the finals. But last year it was probably a little bit easier to pick for them because they just kept finding a way to win week after week after week after week, and it was just like, oh, yeah, this team's coming. Whereas... I don't know if I get the same vibe from them this year, but with the way their forward pack is playing, yeah, I kind of do. And Chase Butler's doing some awesome things off the back of it, and it is a little bit of deja vu, but then I look at the matchup across the park and like it is different class in terms of the large brothers there, and I'm very keen to see Siffa Oldfield back because his last game before he was away was a great game, both sides of the ball, and defensively in particular, he's really stood up. But yeah, keen to see how that matchup goes. I'm not going to pick anyone because whoever I pick, the opposite will win. Or maybe I do pick someone. I think Knights. If I had to pick someone, I'm probably going with the Knights, just because I get that deja vu from last year. Roosters versus Rabbitohs. This could be the game of the season. As we speak, or as I speak, yous will all know come tomorrow, but there is suspension looming for Carter Mariko. Believe he's meant to be having a hearing today. They put an appeal. There's been a whole, bunch of things going on. But yeah, hearing today or tonight might be on as I speak. So I will update on Instagram if that goes through, but that is a huge out. And looking at, I was earlier today given the opportunity to analyse and look at a heap of data and a heap of video across the junior reps and across the NRL. It was like a pig in shit there because I was just loving every minute of it, being able to click up and see missed tackles and analyse each sort of missed tackle and analyse all these different shapes that are being run for tries, and that was just unreal. But yeah, where was I going with that? Was I still talking about Mariko? Got a little bit sidetracked there. But yeah, he had a crusher tackle against the Storm a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, in week one of the finals, and it looked not ideal. So he could be out with that. So a number of changes to come. With the Roosters, I'm actually spewing. I completely lost my train of thought there. I know that's going to piss a couple of people off that are listening, but yeah, I think Rex Bathingthwaite maybe to 6, Alan Akapati to fullback. I know they've got Keone Anatolia-Chusis in that setup as well, who can play 6. Other potential options, not too sure on. But keen to see what they do there. Yeah, this will be the game of the season, I think. Rabbitohs, they were far too clinical last week against the Parramatta Eels. Every single time they got an attacking opportunity, they just took it. Defensively, they were really good. And I'm sure they'll come at this 100%. And then for the Roosters, geez, they were clinical. Week 1 against the Storm, I think they got the loss that they needed out of the way. And as I've said, they're a very, very, very strong side. And I've regathered my thought about Mariko. His tackle efficiency, it's such a big loss because his tackle efficiency is 93%. He's only had 9 misses or something like that. And yeah, his missed tackles aren't really all that bad either. So on the defensive side of the ball, it's a huge loss. But then just his impact on the attacking side of the ball as well. So yeah, I'm keen to see how they go if they are missing him. I'm acting as if they are missing him because their team list doesn't have him there. But he could ultimately come back into it if his hearing is successful. Yeah, I'm very keen to see this lock matchup between Caleb Cresswell and Eddie Kalis. Now, Eddie Kalis has been the best lock in the competition so far this season. He's done it with, probably the best pack in the comp. I highlighted, Liam Bell, James Finnegan, and Eddie Kalis. I highlighted them the other week because they were leading the line speed and leading the kick chase and just putting in effort on effort throughout the course of that Storm game, and they were really the difference in the end. And Eddie Kalis, he had a blinder, so did James Finnegan. But I'm keen to see how this matchup goes between Kalis and Cresswell, because Cresswell killed it last week. He had a try. He's been in awesome form, Caleb Cresswell. I really like him. I think I mentioned it last week or maybe the week before. I might have been on a Q&A even. Noticed him in the preseason trials, thought he played really well there, and he's just continued to sort of tick away and play very good footy for the Rabbitohs through the middle there. And I think he's found a home at lock, that sort of Bailey Hayward mould from when he was coming on at lock at the Bulldogs. Maybe they just look similar. I don't know if that's what I'm getting it from, but yeah, I think he's got a ball playing background, whether he was in the halves or whatever. But yeah, very tough through the middle, moves well, he's got good pre-line. And yeah, I think he's on the up. He's ascending at the moment. Is Caleb Creswell, and yeah, there's going to be a top matchup between these two locks. I think that's going to be the one to watch there. Another one that could be out for this game, or is out rather, I should say, is Dean Tower. He's named in the lineup at the moment, but he suffered a pretty nasty injury last week. He came off with his arm sort of in that makeshift jersey sling. I think that's a dislocated elbow, from what I've been told. I've also been told he done a hamstring throughout the game as well, but he'll be out for a couple of weeks at least. So yeah, this is going to be, albeit injury affected and suspension affected, if Mariko doesn't get off, it's going to be a cracking game. Anything else to mention from that? Just apart from the fact, Rabbitohs, they were the undefeated minor premiers, and the Roosters, they were the hype team, the team with all these superstars throughout it. They lost one game against the Storm, and then they bounced back by absolutely obliterating the Storm the very next week, 56-6. They get the week off. It's just, yeah, I'll be keen to see how much of a difference Carter Mariko being out makes this side. I think the Roosters still win, but it certainly throws a spanner into the works, that suspension. Howard Matthews, Steelers versus Roosters, the first game. The Roosters, they won their last matchup against the Steelers in pretty comfortable fashion, I must say, because through the middle part of the game, I think Caleb Zara scored to set one up, or I think he had like 3 line breaks between the 20th and 30th minute, and really put the Steelers to bed early. Their forwards are hitting elite form at the right time. The Sydney Roosters, Cooper Tesoriero, I've highlighted him so much this year, and I feel like I've said that name so many times, but for good reason. Defensively, he's an absolute menace. He's about it, Cooper Tesoriero, and so is Marquis Sando, who I highlighted earlier in this podcast. Caleb Zara's been doing some really good work through the middle, makes a heap of tackles, very busy. His running game's electric. One of the leading try scorers out of dummy half. I think he is the leading try scorer out of dummy half this season. It's going to be a cracking matchup here. The Steelers looking to bounce back. They were great against Newcastle in week 1. They've gotten the week off. Asher Chapman, he's, in great form at the moment. He's playing 6. They got, guns in key positions. Oliver Burton out the back. Rylan Coelho, he's really impressed me as well at number 9 so far this season. Their forward pack has been solid. Denon Barter out on the left edge. I think he's had some really good performances. He was good again against the Newcastle Knights. But yeah, I'm keen to see how the Roosters perform in this game, because they've gone back-to-back weeks of just bullying their opposition in terms of, their physicality and their presence. I was speaking to someone the other day, and we're going, the draw is super important, and also, the physicality and the strength of your forward pack. And we've seen it with the Warriors the last 2 seasons. When the Bulldogs won it, they had, the likes of Sasaya Alatini through, their back row, very strong physical presence. Other teams that have won it, the Magpies, they were a little bit of, they were just a freakish team. They've had 7 players, or 6 players rather, debut from that side. Lachlan Galvin out wide, big, strong, physical. Number 12 he was at the time. And Kit Lily through the middle. Who else did they have there? They had some big boys through the middle as well. So yeah, and then Manly the year before that. I'm just thinking back to Howard Matthews sides that I've seen win the comp. Manly before that, Samuel Fainu was in that lineup as well. They were a very big, strong, physical side, and all the boys that were from Guildford going across to that side, and they've sort of had the wood that deserves a deep dive of its own. That year where you had Latu Fainu, Samuel Fainu, Lehigh Opawade, all them boys in the Manly Howard Matthews side, and the Eels Howard Matthews side was Miles Martin, Ethan Sanders, all these other guys as well, Charlie Geimer. It was pretty much like 6 or 7 boys from Hills Bulls that were in the Eels side, and 5 or 6 that were from Manly that were in the Guildford side. Guildford beat Hills Bulls that year, and then Manly beat Parramatta in the finals as well, and sort of had a bit of the wood on them. Latu Fainu versus Ethan Sanders that year. So that deserves a deep dive on its own, though. I might go back and look at some of the best, Howard Matthews and SG Ball sides. I was speaking about that 2023 Eels SG Ball side. That was an elite team. But yeah, now I'm just reminiscing a little bit. So yeah, I think the Roosters, the form that they're carrying, as I just said, the physicality in their pack, I thought it was going to be either the Panthers or Roosters that won the comp going into last week. I think the winner of that game was going to go on and do it because the Roosters are peaking at the right time. They've been the most visually impressive team over the last 4 weeks, and the Panthers, I thought they were the most stacked team. I thought they were the most physically dominant team. Missing Charlie Jureb, which is huge, but they were still probably the best team list. And still very physical. Cordell Rama up front. He's one of those guys that wins you Harold Matthews competitions. But yeah, the Roosters, they get the job done there, so I'm going to follow them now. I think they're the team to beat at the moment, even though they're the lowest seeded team in the finals still. So that will certainly go down interestingly. I might do a matchup to watch as well, just off the top of my head. What is going to be the key matchup? I think the halves, I want to see Asher Chapman versus Samuel Large in that 6 jersey, or Asher Chapman versus Charlie Webb in terms of, the star power, top of the line, Harold Matthews players. They're the two. That's the matchup to watch in this game. Asher Chapman's obviously been killing it. Charlie Webb, he was player of the match last week. He was probably been the Roosters' best this year. Defensive side of the ball, he hits and sticks. And then on the attacking side of the ball, he's obviously a bit of a freak. So, and then Asher Chapman, I've spoken enough about him. He was in my team of the year. Very versatile player, creative, good running game, all those sorts of things. So that's the one. And Samuel Large as well. He deserves his raps. He's an age up. He's going to be a gun as well. He'll be one of the premier players in Harold Matthews next year as well. Just his ball playing, he sets up a lot of tries, and his defensive side of the ball as well. That's a good thing that the Roosters have, is both of their halves are very good defensively. All right, Rabbitohs versus Knights. I've put a matchup here already, and it's the best matchup of the day. Left edge Knights, Riley Rostron versus right edge South Peyton Taro. Wow. Player of the year versus, I think Riley Rostron was second in my player of the year vote. He's been awesome. I was analysing earlier today the Knights left edge and how many of their tries are actually scored through that side, and it is an overwhelming amount. You got Rostron and Cade McKay and Malachi Fave-Eli, all these guys on the left edge that are absolute guns. Nate Vincent out wide scored a heap of tries as well. Just being on the receiving end of some of those guys. And a lot of the attack's going to go through Rostron and Mackay again in this game, and Tataro's got a huge job on his hands here, and as do the back rowers. I think it's Jaden Bishop, I think, is named to be out there again. I need to get the team list up and have them in front of me before I start talking about these games, but I don't do that because I am slow. Here we go. Rabbitohs versus Knights. It will be Jaden Bishop out on that edge for Peyton Taro, so they've got a huge job in their hands to shut down the Knights' attack, but as do the Knights' defence on that side of the ball. They've got a huge job to shut down Taro. His performance against the Panthers in week 1 in extra time was sensational, and then you look at the left side of the field, Charlie Baitup, he's probably been their best player in terms of, finals week 1. I thought he was the man of the match. Round 9, he was the Harold Matthews player of the round for mine. He's had some unbelievable performances to end this season off, and I think he's going to continue that form because you've got two guys here for the Rabbitohs. It's the best halves pairing in the comp. I just come out and say that. Charlie Baitup and Peyton Taro, they're just on the up. And then, you got this back line of the Knights, which is awesome. Then you got this forward pack for the Rabbitohs that I've highlighted all year. Very big and physical. And, I was talking before about physicality and your size in Harold Matthews and how much that helps you win comps. Rabbitohs have got that formula as well. And I just think elite halves, elite forward pack. I'm very, very confident on the Rabbitohs at the moment in Harold Matthews. I think they'll go through to the grand final. I think it'll be a Rabbitohs versus Roosters Harold Matthews grand final, which I'm sure will be completely civil, and fans who would otherwise pay zero attention to Harold Matthews won't make a big deal of it. But that should be an awesome matchup. And you got Roosters versus Rabbitohs in the SG Ball prelim finals as well. So those two clubs are in an awesome spot. And the Newcastle Knights are in an awesome spot as well. They've got, all four of their junior rep sides in the finals. Lisa Fiola and Tasha Gala there as well. They've got some super exciting talent in those two teams. They've got some super exciting talent in Harold Matthews and SG Ball that are coming through at the moment. And yeah, I'm very keen to see how this game goes, but I am just siding with that size and physicality through the middle. The Knights forward pack is very good as well. Like I've already highlighted Cade McKay out in the back row, but he's not the only one. Oliver Lawrence, he's been awesome this year, as with Hayden Shell. I think he's a guy that probably flying a little bit under the radar, but I think he's done a lot of really good things through the middle. I think he's a bit of a goer. At 13 is Hayden Shell. He's caught my eye a couple of times this year, and I'm keen to see how they match up to this Rabbitohs forward pack. But like, if this was two NRL teams coming into a matchup against each other, I think most people would look at it and go, okay, forward pack, halves, you side with the Rabbitohs here. And the Knights, their back five's awesome. Their halves are good. Riley Roshan's obviously one of the premier players in the comp. He will do a lot with this side. This left edge will do a lot. Oliver Lawrence, Hayden Shell, as I just mentioned, they'll try and control the middle. But yeah, it's going to be a task, and it's going to be a great game to see who sort of comes out on top, especially that Knights left edge versus Rabbitohs right edge. I'm super keen to see how that unfolds. Let's move on. NRL debuts is my next talking point. Probably the most anticipated debut of the season, Dragons halfback Cade Reid. He's a guy that I've watched for a while, obviously through Harold Matthews, and then he had an awesome year at the Australian Schoolboys Carnival. He's played with the Steelers. He was a halves partner to King Tongia in SG Ball, and then the next year he took over that Steelers SG Ball side, had an awesome year. I think he ended up second in my Player of the Year vote. He's then gone on now to kill it in NRL trials, and he's been one of the form halfbacks in New South Wales Cup this year as well. Is he ready? Nobody knows. There is not one soul that could give you the answer to whether or not he is ready. But what I do know, and what Dean Young has said to echo my sentiments, and like the rant that I went on a couple of weeks ago, was he is putting in elite performances in New South Wales Cup. He is becoming your best option to be the halfback, and he will give you an attacking spark that unfortunately hasn't been there for the Dragons. Okay, defensively, Cole Flanagan's better. That's obvious. I do like the fact that Dean Young stuck with Cole Flanagan in the side off the bench at 14. I think he can give you valuable reps at hooker. But, one of these guys, Atkinson or Flanagan, probably had to be replaced by Cade Reid for the sheer fact that in attack, it's just not working. I think I heard a stat the other day, Cole Flanagan has 1 try assist and Daniel Atkinson has 3 try assists or something like that. Or it might even be line break assists, but they just have not been creatively good enough. And one thing that Cade Reid, I can guarantee you he will do, is he will be trying things and he will create attack. Let's bring up his stats from New South Wales Cup this season, because it's been good, and he's had a lot of moments, a lot of games where he's been the best player on the park by far, just by sheer virtue of how much he's creating with his attack. So 2 tries, 2 forced dropouts, 250 average kick meters. His kicking game is good as well. That's the other thing. Obviously, Atkinson's going to do most of the kicking. Dean Young's taken that pressure off Cade Reid, which I respect. But Cade Reid's short kicking game will play a factor in this game. 5 try assists in 4 games, 3 line break assists. His tackle efficiency's at about 80%, but as I was saying, defensive things is an eye test. I don't think he's been too bad. I don't think he's, missing his assignments all that often, but he is a bit of a smaller body, so he's going to have that low tackle efficiency. 73 average run meters. He has had those games where he's gone big, though. So let's have a look game by game. So played the full 80 and so he only played 2 minutes against the Bulldogs in week 1 too. So this is pretty much 3 full games that he's played. Cade Reid, that Eels game, I thought he was the best on ground, and it was his kicking game that was the focal point. 412 kick meters. He had 2 try assists in that game, and his running game. There was a game against the Manly Seagulls where it was probably his best game in New South Wales Cup. 118 total running meters. He had 124 the week before. He's sort of coming up with that 4 missed tackles a game in his 3 full games. that's fine, like I said. But every single game in New South Wales Cup where he's played the full game, he's had at least a try assist. That game against the Bears that he had, forced dropout, 2 try assists, 2 line breaks, 3 tackle breaks, 19 tackles, 124 metres. He is right up there with some of the most exciting halfbacks coming through the grades at the moment. There's so many guys, and I highlighted it countlessly last year. This age group of halves was so stacked. Mitch Woods and Toby Rodwell were the New South Wales 19s halves. Below them, the guys that missed the side, Cade Reed, Joey Walsh, Lorenzo Talatena, absolute freaks. Alex Conti as well, who I just highlighted for his huge performances in New South Wales Cup. Like, there is Matthew Humphreys as well. He's in that age group. He's playing New South Wales Cup and going pretty good. Like, they're all in very, very good spots. And Javon Andrews is a part of that age group as well. Kobe Black, like, this is a stacked age group for halves. Kobe Black, he had an awesome game. I'll pivot to that in New South Wales Cup on the weekend. Him and Owen Paddy were unreal. They carved them up. Ethan Alea, I thought, was good out of the back as well. Chevy Stewart had an awesome game. That Raiders New South Wales Cup side, much sort of maligned, 0-6. They got their first win, 48-12, and I thought those young players really stood up. And Owen Paddy, he's been killing it in New South Wales Cup. He's been their best player week on week. And Kobe Black, I had a conversation with someone the other day. They're 0-6. Kobe Black's not going that good. Ethan Sanders is a long-term 7. Wouldn't be so sure about that because Kobe Black's played some good footy there. He hasn't had, the massive games. They haven't been winning, but he's played some good footy. If the forward pack starts to roll, which they haven't this year, but they did on the weekend, I thought Roman Tuamau, he's a young player there. He had a good game for the Raiders on the weekend as well. Let's have a look at some of the other forwards who really lifted their level on the weekend because they got a really young forward pack. Jake Clydesdale, he was huge in this game. Vina Patuki Case, Jordan Utah. It's a very young. Malachi Smith was playing lock. Such a young forward pack. Jesse Millen off the bench. Samuel Hine off the bench. Sean Packer, Kane Anderson. Like, those two guys aren't even forwards. But it's just, once they get that forward pack rolling, I think Kobe Black's going to put him some huge performances. He has had some hit and miss games for the most part. He's played some pretty good footy when he's had the opportunity to. You look back at that Manly game, a couple with the clutch try assist to Kane Anderson, to tie the game or to have the chance to tie the game. He then missed a kick, whatever. I think it's not as clear cut or set in stone that Ethan Sanders is the guy there. I think Kobe Black is playing some really good footy. I think he's the long-term 7 at the club. If you ask me to give an opinion, Ethan Sanders is doing some good things. The last couple of weeks have been better. Just not completely sold, especially, creatively. I don't know if him and Ethan Strange have meshed all that well. Ethan Strange has been playing some really good footy over the last couple of weeks, but I don't think anything solidified there. And like I've said from the start, I think Kobe Black is going to be, a very good first grader for a long time. I think he's a long-term guy. It is going to be an interesting battle to see how that plays out. I'm not completely discounting Ethan Sanders, I think Kobe Black's a guy that you just need to pay attention to. I just don't completely forget him. Yeah, look at this, most fantasy points, Kobe Black. I like how we're doing fantasy points for him. And you see the fantasy points for SG Ball and Harold Matthews and all that. It's always interesting to look at. 5 runs, 90 metres, 2 line breaks, a try assist. He was awesome, especially with his running game. He's good player, Kobe Black. Look at his defence too. 22 tackles, only 2 missed. His defence was very good to the eye. He's a player. And I've maintained that he was my first pick in my draft last year. I do a draft every year on November 1st. Just to highlight some of the young guys coming through, and he was my first pick there. I think he's going to be a very talented player for a while. Other talking points, I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, what I want in my New South Wales centres or New South Wales outside backs. I want speed, because you cannot beat speed, and I want a great defender. There's a guy who's ticking both of those boxes that nobody is talking about, or if they do talk about him, it's like, oh, and what about this guy as well? Or it's, something along those lines. I think Tolutau Kola, I'd pick him on the wing. you don't move Critter from centres. I've seen a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but some people are um, sort of playing around with him going to the wing. And Latrell Mitchell, he has to be the centre. You've seen what he did to Val Holmes on the weekend. He's a superstar. You don't change that. It's Critter and Trell, and those two were some of our best last year. Then Brian Toto is obviously the other winger. Now, to replace Zach Lomax, Josh Adokar, good defender, quick as, or Tolotau Kola, quick as, great defender. I think he can play wing. I think he can play anywhere in the back five, really. He can play fullback, centres, wing. I think he's going to show over the next couple of weeks that he is a class fullback. I don't think fullback's his best position. He played really well against the Cowboys, obviously. He's coming up with... He's just a guy over the last 18 months who's been really slept on as one of the class outside backs. Like, he was Manly's Player of the Year last year. I thought he had an unbelievable season there. He obviously had some outstanding games. He was scoring a couple of tries and carving people up, but I just don't think people give him the respect that he deserves, Tolu Kula. So if I was making my Origin team, I would have him there. Obviously, you got these names like Jacob Kiraz and Mark Nwangani Tawase and all these guys, and I just don't quite trust it. And especially for me, I've said it. I want the speed and I want the defensive capabilities. Mark Nwangani Tawase probably has neither of those. He's quick, but he's not rapid, and his defensive capabilities aren't all there, and he makes a lot of errors. And then Jacob Kiraz, I think there's a little bit of a false economy there in terms of his his run meters and offloads and all these sorts of things. And, he's not all that quick. He does make a couple of errors from a few silly offloads. He's, right up there, obviously. And I'm just talking about from a perspective of who do I want in my wing position. I think Coola's the top seed, to be completely honest. And I think Josh Adokar's the second seed. And I don't hear enough people talking about those two guys for that option. So, I think very, very underrated. And then I was talking about a halfback class that is very stacked earlier with Cade Reed, Lorenzo Talatena, all these guys that are in the under 20s age group at the moment, which makes them 06. There's another class of halfbacks coming through that are the 08 class, your Marikos, your Butlers, and all these guys. And you're doing some really good things in SG Ball. Most NRL fans wouldn't have heard of them yet, whatever. But it's another very good halfbacks class coming through. I think the best one may not be from Australia. I've wanted to talk about this for a little bit of time now. He was featured down here carving up the New South Wales under-17s last year. That's Ewan Irwin from the Warrington Wolves. He's been playing reserves up there. He's played a couple of Super League games already at just 18 years of age, and only freshly 18 too. That 2008 class of halfbacks is strong. I think he's a genuine problem up in England. I think he's a guy that's going to be good enough to come to the NRL if he wants to. Obviously, English halfbacks don't work out a lot, but I think he's a pretty special player up there. I'm very keen to see how his career develops, because I think there's a couple of really good young players up in England at the moment. Obviously, you got the guys that NRL fans who are aware of, Junior and Sembers and all them sort of guys. I think there's two kids at Warrington who could be genuine stars in the outside backs in Kai Taylor Ray, who I've mentioned a fair bit, and Ewan Irwin. Just keep an eye out for that name. But other than that, we'll wrap it up here. Got so much on coming up. Very keen to see how the finals play out. Very keen to see how all of these things that we've talked about played out. Cade Reed's debut, super highly anticipated. I'm excited to see how he goes. Unfortunately, I'll be at the junior reps, so I won't be able to watch it live. But I'll certainly be trying to watch it back because I'm going to be very keen to see how he goes. But other than that, thanks for listening for another week. I've got some hoodie designs and a quarter zip design coming. I made some last year that were just, for myself and family and friends to wear. And, just to promote within my own content and all that sort of stuff. But I've made a few. I'm going to give away a couple, so follow my Instagram for all those sorts of things. And if there is enough interest in them, probably will put them on sale. I've had a couple of people message me over the last 12 months about, merchandise and all that sort of stuff. Something that not overly, moves me, or I'm not really all that keen on putting it out there, but if it does come to fruition and if there is a fair bit of interest, I'll 100% put it out there. But for now, just making a couple of designs. I'll put them up on my Instagram, do a couple of giveaways and all that, so make sure you're following there for all that stuff. Thanks for listening for another week. See you on the next one.